before we jump into the video, I wanted to remind everyone that we are doing a watch party for Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier #2, the rematch this Saturday. I'm going to be doing some commentating on the fights. We'll talk, obviously, in the chat. Wanted to remind you guys, it's the first time we've gone live in months, and I want you guys to be a part of it. January 23rd, around 4 p.m.-ish Pacific Standard Time. Be here, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2 reaction watch party. Just a good-ass time. I'll see you guys Saturday. All right, so we're 1 week away from Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2, and I told you guys, that this was going to happen, okay? Just go back and watch the videos. I told you guys. Conor McGregor has now responded to Jake Paul and the YouTube boxing scene. We knew this was going to happen, right? We knew this was going to happen. I don't know what the response is yet. We're going to see right here. But I knew this was going to happen. In Fight Week, people are going to ask Conor questions. And yes, we know Jake is taking boxing extra seriously. We know he's committed when he gets into camp. So much so he's actually selling his house in LA because he's fed up with the distractions. He's going to solely dedicate himself to becoming a prize fighter. So he's leaving LA. He's leaving the clout, the fame, the parties, the nice weather, all of it behind. He's going to seclude himself in boxing training in Miami. That can't be right because Jake's secluding himself. Why would he leave LA to go to the South's version of LA? He's leaving the nice weather to go to nice weather. He's leaving the parties to go to parties. No, but he's leaving the influence and the social media and all the celebrities that are also in Miami. Wait, Jake's basically going to LA of the South. What are we doing? Jake has been talking about a fight with Conor McGregor for a little bit now, and surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, because I did think Conor would be asked these questions, but Conor McGregor has responded to Jake Paul. I can't have Conor, one of the best fighters in the world, coming up with a fight in a week, talking about a fight with Jake Paul. Please, I can't have him talking competitively about this. I hope that's not what this is, but we're going to watch it. We're going to find out.
A YouTube Jake Paul beat former NBA player Nate Robinson. That sold over 1 million buys on pay-per-view.
I think we need to be careful with our words here about Jake Paul and Nate Robinson selling $1 million in pay-per-view revenue, because let's be honest here, there was two pretty big names in the main event of that pay-per-view, and it wasn't Jake Paul and it wasn't Nate Robinson. It was Mike fucking Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Why are people forgetting? Yes, Jake and Nate were on a card that did 1.8 million pay-per-view buys. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. at the top of the marquee most certainly had more to do with that than Jake Paul and Nate Robinson in the co-main. Yes, Jake had something to do with it, fair play. I'll give him his credit. He did have some things to do with that. But you didn't sell 1.8 by yourself, Jake. Iron Mike Tyson, the biggest pay-per-view draw in boxing history, was the main event of that card. But yes, Jake Paul was the reason that they sold 1.8 million, because he said so. That's why.
The numbers that show calculated was, it was a Mike Tyson fight. You know, you had Tyson who.
Wait, whoa! What was that? What was that, Conor?
It was a Mike Tyson fight. You know.
It was a Mike Tyson fight.
You know, it's almost like another main event, highest level draw in the fight game understood what brought in 1.8 million pay-per-view buyers to the fight game. It's interesting he didn't say Jake brought him in. He said Mike Tyson did. Maybe one of the biggest draws in the fight game's history, Conor McGregor is just making up that Tyson was the main reason that 1.8 million pay-per-view buys came in. Or maybe Jake is just using that influence that he has to convince people that he was the reason they brought in so much money on that pay-per-view. Come on. Think.
Tyson, an icon in fighting, as well as Roy Jones Jr. Two
Facts.
goats in the sport of combat. You know, and then you had the YouTube kid and then an NBA star competing underneath that. So it done good business. Am I into those competitions myself? You know, it's not the most high level, if any level at that stage.
This right here is easy work for a guy like Conor. What you just saw, think of all the videos, think of all the Instagram posts, think of all the stuff that Jake is trying to do to drum up interest in a fight, and watch a grown man shut that shit down in one sentence. Conor McGregor just laid down the law to Jake Paul. Basically big brothered him. Really, he fathered Jake Paul here. He fathered the problem child better than old man Greg and his liver spots has in his entire life. He calls Jake Paul the YouTube kid, doesn't mention him by name, which is the perfect way to play this. Basically dispels this entire thing by saying, this isn't the highest level of fighting. It's not really any level of fighting. I'm not going to entertain it as a fighter. That's it. I mean, that's a walk-off KO. Conor with a 10-8 round. Like, however way you want to describe it, Conor McGregor just bodied the YouTube king of boxing in one sentence.
And you know, if it, as they say, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. I know Dana and the UFC are not really into it, but you know, I'm not so against it. I think you know, if people are willing to get in and take the risk of making that walk, you know, I am certainly a viewer.
I ain't gonna lie. When he was talking at that last sentence, I was like, please don't go a whole 180 on me here, Conor, and say I'd be down for it. But he ended off the video saying he's in for it as a viewer, which, again, that's pretty cool to see that Conor gives it up for the fight game in all facets. We know that Conor is a fighter through and through. He doesn't care if it's a pro fight, if it's a backyard fight, if it's a fight in the street. A fight's a fight. And we've never taken any kind of disrespect to Jake Paul because he wants to fight and because he's training as hard as he can. The whole thing from me to the Paul brothers has always been the disrespect level, the place that I find disrespect. One, I don't like him. Okay, you guys know this. I don't like him. But two, the only parts I've ever really found disrespectful is what Logan's doing with Floyd and what Jake's trying to do with Conor. You know, cut the line, get these big marquee matchup fights that they don't deserve because it makes a lot of money, they have a lot of influence, and they generate a lot of money. That's what I don't like about it. I mean, yes, Jake is going to continue to call for the Conor fight, and apparently the Dylan Dennis fight is either in the works or they're trying to figure out what's going on with it. But long story short, Conor McGregor showed you guys that there's levels to this stuff, because no matter how much money and clout and fame and everything that Jake has and brings to the table, the saddest thing about this is what I've told you guys for months is that Conor McGregor doesn't know who Jake Paul is. And the YouTube kid takes another L, the problem man-child. In the words of Conor McGregor, he's not a high-level fighter. He's not really any level of fighter. I hate to say it. Well, actually, I don't. Jake Paul's not getting that Conor McGregor fight anytime soon. Sorry, guys.